Hello again, everybody. I don't think I need an opening statement. I think you guys are all there. I'm ready for questions. Happy signing day, everyone.
You too.
PJ, with Anthony Smith, you talked about the ease of him kind of committing and saying that way. Was that surprising at all, just given the credentials that he has and the interest in his state too?
It was surprising, but also when you get to know him because he committed and we knew him, but then you really get to know him as you keep going forward. That didn't shock me because you know it's a perfect fit, and he's committed for all the right reasons and why. And the recruiting process just didn't faze him. He wanted to go a place where he has to play a chance to compete. That's going to appreciate him on and off the field. You get the whole experience. This is all about creating the most elite college student-athlete experience possible. That doesn't mean every single person has that. You do everything you can to create that, and I think that's what he really was excited about at the end of the day was the whole experience, and we hit it off really quickly and have a great relationship.
PJ, what was it like this morning just seeing all the letters come in and knowing that, of the guys you built those relationships with, there weren't really a ton of huge surprises this morning?
I like, as a leader, you don't like surprises, period, one way or another. I remember Heather surprising me for my birthday, but I actually talked to the valet guy who I knew, like, why am I here? He's like, it's your birthday, don't tell her. And boom, surprise, I got it. Woo-hoo. At least I knew beforehand. I hate being surprised, just so you know. And on the other end, too, when it doesn't work out. So when you're not surprised, it's a good thing. You knew exactly what we were going into. We knew exactly who was going to. We talk put him to bed. That's what we kind of call it. That's the quote we use, put him to bed. And last night we were all good and ready to go. And our staff does an amazing job of building those relationships. And, I think that paid off at the end of why there's no surprises is because, our guys just do such a great job of identifying who's going to be the right fit. You're not perfect in recruiting. You're not always going to have the right fit. Not everybody's going to be here from signing day all the way to the end, especially now with the portal system the way it is. But you do everything you can to find and research the right fit, and I feel like we've done that with this class.
PJ, Trey Bixby's health issues last year or into this year. How did he persevere through that? What did you see out of that?
Incredible resolve. A lot of people would have folded up and said, I'm not going to do it. He looks good. He's smiling. He just seems to be back to getting back to Trey, and I think that's what we all want for him. And care for him more as a person than just a football player. And when you have that relationship with somebody and their family, again, I understand this is a business, everybody's got to win, but these are people. You're raising people's children for them. When they hit 18 years old and go off to you, you have a responsibility to them. That's no different with Trey. We're going to make sure that, he's okay and continues to go through the process that he needs to go through and support him 100% and be there for him. And just like we do all of our student athletes. Some people need less, some people need more. But again, whatever their needs are, we're going to be there for them.
Tony Nelson's athletic traits really jump out. How excited are you about his developmental potential?
I think one thing that took me over the edge, being able to commit when we're sitting in those, commit to him in those recruiting meetings, was watching him play defensive end. I mean, I'm not saying I'd take him as a defensive end, but watching him play defensive end. You're talking about a guy who plays both ways. That's an offensive tackle, and as big as he is, and coming off the edge, and the how, like that matters to me. These kids are only 17, 18 years old. Imagine what he's going to be when he's 22, 23 years old, when he has that type of athleticism and he finally grows into his body. When guys grow that way, that quick, that fast, usually they're not done developing at 17. They've got a long way to go, and we'll bet on him all day long with his athleticism, how hard he plays, his length. And I told you those numbers. I mean, you're a 60-foot shot putter, and then you're a 9-foot broad jumper. I mean, his feet are like as big as this podium. He's got massive feet. And he's got really good feet, too. He can move them pretty good. Pick him up, put him down. So we're excited about his future.
When you look at from now until February, what additional positions do you want to continue to address, whether it's high school or via the transfer portal?
Yeah, we're gonna evaluate that. We pretty much got every position. We've got some really young guys at the defensive tackle position within our program that I think are going to have a really good spring. We need to have a really good spring. And these are really long guys who were here last year, or maybe even the year before that, to really add depth on that interior D-line. We did that with Niles Pinckney, did that with Micah Dude-Treadway. Those two were both leaving the program. Looking at some type of depth in there as we go forward. Some of these freshmen are going to have to be able, like we told them in recruiting, you can't promise you're going to play. Nobody can ever promise you're going to play. You got to go earn that, but we got to have enough length and size that if we get to the freshmen, they're good enough to be able to play. We feel like we have that at the end position. And then we're always looking for playmakers, and then always looking for help up front, and that's where the trenches are. And if we can add depth to that, not to say replace players in this program, if we can add depth to that and have competition continue to go up, then we're doing all the right things. And we'll continue to do that. But I love where we're at with the high school development of some young players. And now, this bowl prep and spring ball is incredibly important to get some of those guys to keep coming up and rising to the occasion.
PJ, from year 0 to now, what has changed as far as recruiting and how much easier it is for you after you built this program?
Oh, I'd love to be able to say it's easier. It just got way harder. I think that I think your specific question maybe has to do with just within our program. I think we know exactly what we're looking for. We know what works, what doesn't work, not only within our program and our culture, but on the field and then off the field, here at Minnesota, within the Twin Cities. What can we look for throughout the recruiting process that maybe are some signs that trend somebody in a really good way or trend somebody in a way that maybe we should, stop recruiting them? All of those things. You're never perfect. You're not. And that's what's hard is that, everybody looks at you as to be perfect in all those decisions. And you're not. I mean, it's an organized guess. It's just like the draft. I mean, if you look at every quarterback drafted in the first round and see where they are 5 years later, a lot of them don't even exist in the NFL anymore. So you got to eliminate the decisions that just don't work out. But I think we have a really good feel offensively, defensively, and special teams of what works here and where we're evolving to, which make it easier for who we're actually looking for. What makes it more complicated is now the transfer portal. And for everything every college football coach is saying right now, it's just very difficult because now you're not only the head coach, but you're still the GM, you're the president, you're the owner, you're all of that. But now there's this separate recruiting part that can keep changing your roster all the way through May 1, right? And where your numbers will be, how many you'll have available, how many transfers you need to take versus how many high school people, because I can never tell you that. You might be forced to take 5 or 6 transfers late after spring instead of high school players. It all varies. So it's just like everything in college football. It's always changing. It's inevitable. And that's why I love it. Jim Tressel told me a long time ago, college football is the best. You just never know what you're going to get. And now we basically have free agency of somewhat in college football. Which is unique without a salary cap. So that makes it really unique. The National Football League's made for parity. College football right now, it's not. When you're starting to talk about the transfer portal and the NIL and all those other things. So it's very unique of where we're headed in the future, but we're just going to keep rowing the boat.
What areas, when you look at that schedule, would you like to see potential changes or streamlines?
Everybody's going to throw ideas out there, and everybody's going to say they're happy or not happy. Listen, I want solutions. I want to know what we can do to make it better, right? Because right now it's really hard, right? There's player sides, there's university sides, coaches sides, right? Parent sides. The changes are happening faster and faster to coaches, which then put those players in a really tough position to sign or not sign early. So if it's that close of a decision, then move it way up, right? Where now all of a sudden if you're committed, you're committed. Now, there might be a way out too. If a coach leaves because of the portal, right, you can leave a school anytime. There might be that transfer might come even with the NLI, right? That might come to that part where if a coach leaves, you have the ability to have a one-time transfer, and that might be your transfer. It might be just one altogether, whether it's a NLI, get out of that, or a transfer of school, that might be able to combine to one. I don't know. But something has to be able to be moved up. We do know that at some point. But I do think having one signing day, I'm not in favor of just the one signing day. I like the early signing period. The guys that want to get it over with, done with, start early, let's go, that are decisive. But I also feel for the kids when a coach does leave, because that is part of the nature, that is part of the business, that they can have an option to be able to open that back up, because they're not only going to play for just the school, they're playing for the coach too. And there's no right answer to that. And I deal with a lot of people who say, hey, you got to pick the school, just the school. Well, that's not necessarily accurate. Or, hey, you got to just pick the coach. Well, that's not 100% just accurate. It's got to all somewhat work together. Now, 90% of their time is going to be under my culture, what we create for them. But I think there's got to be answers for all of that based on the changes we've already made and the path we've gone down. And once you go down that path, there's going to be a lot of things that open up, including your question of when we should actually sign. But I am in favor of 2 signing periods, 100%. Like I think it's healthy.
You've got 6 Minnesota kids, and I think 3 of the top 5 in the state ranked. I mean, how rewarding is that?
I think it's huge. I think it's huge to be able to keep Minnesota kids here in Minnesota. But again, the right Minnesota kids that fit us and want to come here. You know, I think that, Florida doesn't get every Florida kid. Miami doesn't get every Florida kid. Florida State doesn't get every Florida kid, right? That's not how it works, right? And just because we're in Minnesota and just because we have a handful of players that can play at this level every year, or 2 handfuls, doesn't mean every kid should come here. I'm a firm believer in that. I want them to, but if they're not the right fit and it's not for them, I don't want that for either party. It's got to be, that's why fit is everything. And I think too much credit gets to like how many in-state, how many this state. And of course, we're going to start with Minnesota high school student athletes, period. That's where everything we do starts with. But then we have our own process of that too. And we want to make sure it's right for everybody. And I think that's only fair to both sides, that you're fair to that. Because it's about their experience, not by where they're from, by their experience when they get here. And I think we've done a pretty good job of peeling back the onion of finding the right fits for us.
PJ, when you recruit a player whose father played in the NFL, like Hayden Schwartz, they tend to be more of a finished product?
I don't know if they're a finished product. I just think they've been around the game for so long. And if you play in the NFL and you get to the NFL and that's your dad and he's raising you, the work ethic, right, and the resolve and the resiliency and the ability to overcome adversity and the ignoring the external factors and the discipline he must have growing up. Because if you play in it and you're going to create that family atmosphere, you must already have that inside you to play in the most elite professional, league in the world. To play in that, you must already have that instilled in you. So passing that to your son is pretty easy. And his mom was an athlete too. So he has that student athlete mind, and he has that work ethic and that desire. And you go watch him play, his motor is unbelievable. It never shuts off. And he enjoys the game. Not enough people smile playing the game. You know why I love watching Antoine Winfield Jr. play? He smiles. He smiles. I like to smile on the sideline sometimes. I know it might be crazy to some people, like, oh, look at I like to smile, right? So he likes to smile. Antoine likes to smile. Football should be fun when you're playing it. It's hard, it's tough, it's physical. I get all that. There's a lot of highs and lows, but Hayden loves playing the game. And when you're kind of peeling back that onion, like I said, and dissecting someone, you're like, all right, well, what really matters? And to me, playing the game and loving playing the game matters, because it's too hard of a game if you don't. And it'll show so fast. This isn't about stars and rankings and recruiting. It isn't about that. All that goes away, right? The minute you step foot on campus and you got to go compete with Big Ten football players, right? And that's what I love about it, though. And that's why I love about, building those relationships and finding out about the parents, like Brian. I mean, he's got a great story, and he's had a ton of adversity, and he turned his whole life around. And just exceptional parents. Plus his dad's hand is like this big, one of them. It's awesome.
Go ahead and take 1 or 2 more for Coach.
You keep on talking about fit and not wanting to sell them on this, wanting kids that really want to come here. What would be red flags to you? I mean, just little things that perhaps like the rest of us wouldn't think about that you notice on a visit or when you talk to one of these young men.
We all have body language we give off all the time. You've heard me talk about body language, how important that is, right? It's the window into your heart, your soul, what you're thinking, right? Our reactions to a result. You get a response. All of that the entire weekend. First time I meet you. Yeah, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. I don't know necessarily I agree with that, but over time, is it the same things popping up? And then if it is, it's probably going to be that for a long period of time. So I think body language is really critical in that, and you're constantly reading that in everything that you see. From the first time you meet somebody all the way through the entire weekend, from the time they spend to at camp to in between drills, that all matters to me. There are a lot of guys on this sheet, right, that have a full ride scholarship to the University of Minnesota to play in the Big Ten because of how they play the game. Maybe not necessarily what they did or what they accomplished, but how they play the game and how they live their life and how they respond to adversity. That's why they're coming here. and they're also really good football players on top of that. And if you can be right on those type, that's what we got on our football team that goes out and can respond to a Bowling Green loss with 4 straight wins, can respond to a loss and then come back and beat Indiana and win the Axe for the second time in 5 years. Like they can do that. And you get more of those on the team, they're going to be, really good football players, but more importantly, husbands, fathers, sons, they're going to leave as incredible men because they're going to keep getting that more and more here. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we can talk about one day that is all about the fit. But I'm about fit, and last thing I'll say is this isn't about, and Garrett's like, all right, wrap it up. But this isn't about recruiting, okay? This is truly about, this is exactly what it's like here. I mean, maybe you can do an internship one of these days and come into an official visit weekend. It'd be awesome for you, right? You specifically, because I know you'd enjoy that. And it's really important to know that this is exactly what you're walking into. Here's a practice that's not a recruiting practice. And you get to watch how we practice, right? And with our players in bowl prep. And everybody's like, wow, that is so cool. You guys practice so fast. And then you got to go do it. You're still going to have to do it, right? And then we talk about our expectations academically. We have close to a 3.6 GPA as a team. That equals hard. That doesn't equal easy, right? We have great tutors, great learning specialists. Jackie Lenish, Robert Day do a great job. But academically, that's really important. Your academic life, whatever your GPA is, it's still got to be important to you. And then socially, you got to do the right things. Here's our standards, not rules, but standards. Meet the standard. Right? And here's the expectations from us. And then live a life somehow of serving and giving. Don't make it about you. Make it about giving to other people. If you do that, you'll end up where you want to be one day. It's amazing. The more you serve and give, you're going to find out that your life is even better than you expected. So it's all presented that way, where it's not like, hey, you should come here. There's people that have heard that and been like, ran like heck. No thanks. Okay, well, at least you knew exactly what you were getting yourself into, right? In a good way. Right? That's where the fit versus recruiting is. We talk about relationship fit. Hopefully that answers your question.
We have a final question for Coach.
PJ, you got, you said 10 mid-year guys. What does that typically do to get them in early?
What are the standards to get them in early, or what does that do just?
What does it do when they're here in January?
Well, I think you get a 6-month head start. There's always an adaptation process to young people going to college, right? Some people call it homesickness. I lived 20 minutes from where I went to school. I could see my mom's house from the dorm room, and I still got homesick. What's homesickness, right? It's change in everything in your life, from your friends to the football to the way academics are done to the way you eat to the where you go to class to who you walk with, who's in your locker room, to everything in your life as you know it is completely different and new now. That's homesickness. That's how I define homesickness, right? But what it allows them to do is get in here with, I'd say, the non-pressure of the season right around the corner, and to be able to see how we do things through winter conditioning, right? Through meetings with coaches, through our weight room, through our nutrition staff, through academics. And then there's a lot less, I think, overall pressure because there's not the season. You got spring ball where you're going to learn a lot, which, again, there's a lot of pressure in spring ball, but it's not like the season, barreling down on you. Then you get to the summer, then a new group adds, and you just don't feel like the new guy anymore. It's like you only got 6 months of being the new guy, right? Instead of a full year. You only get 6, then another crew comes, you're like, oh, these guys are the new guys now. But it gives you the chance to be able to kind of not knock off the rust, but be able to really kind of test drive the program, and really kind of get your feet wet in a non-pressure type situation. It's always pressure, but a less pressure situation. And then you get to the summer and you feel like a veteran. And then you can get into training camp and you already know how we practice. Because think about it, some of those training camp practices are the first time these young guys get to practice with us. That's why we do that whole summer kind of like run through of what a practice actually looks like. But that's why I think starting early is really important. It's just kind of dive in, right away, but you don't have that pressure of that season barreling down on you in the travel and things like that.
All right. Thank you, Coach. Thank you very much.
Thanks for your time, everybody. Row the boat, Sky Go Gophers. Thanks for all the coverage.